Hello, good morning, Edison Eagles and Edison families. This is Dr. Lee, the principal here with our Family Friday. Aquí estoy, me llamo doctora Lee, la directora de la escuela primaria Edison. Estamos aquí para Viernes Familiar for January, para enero. So our agenda for today is to go over some announcements. I'm going to share with you the new COVID decision tree reading level chart, and we're going to work on setting goals or give you some ideas for how to do that at home with the family. And then we're going to give a congratulations to our shining stars. Our shining stars will be photographed later today because they are going to be presented in their class. And then I will take photos and then do the little video that I upload to YouTube. Ok, la agenda para hoy es tenemos anuncios. Voy a repasar las instrucciones de COVID cuando alguien tiene síntomas y está positivo. Voy a compartir una gráfica de lectura, de niveles de lectura, y voy a enseñar unas ideas para tener metas para su familia en casa, para los niños y también para la familia. Actividades que pueden hacer juntos, y felicitaciones a nuestras estrellas brillantes para este mes. Voy a hacer un video para compartir con ustedes en YouTube después de visitando a las clases. Okay, our announcements are, we have a reminder that LPAC testing begins February 1st through March 24th. Ms. Laskowski has created a schedule, and it covers reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And students in classes have already had practice lessons, which is great. So if you can just encourage, as we get closer to that window, we want the students to be well rested. We want them to give their very best effort. And we will be celebrating them, especially if they reach they make 1 year's difference. That's going to be a celebration. And then also, if they actually achieve a level 4, which means they can be eligible for reclassification, which is we're going to have a little ceremony for. So very exciting. We want to have the kids do their very best. And so we encourage that as well. Also, I'm going to be sending out feedback for our budget. We want to get your feedback, your opinions about whether you think we're spending our Title I money that we receive for students here at Edison, if we're spending that the best way. So we'll be sending a survey for you there, and I'd like your feedback. And then COVID protocols are continuing to shift. So I do want to do that as well, is to inform you of that. Good morning. Entonces los anuncios para hoy es que tenemos pruebas de LPAC, comienzan el 1 de febrero al 24 de marzo con la señora Laskowski. Ella ha creado un horario. Las áreas que tiene el examen es leer, escribir, hablar y escuchar. Los estudiantes han tenido lecciones en práctica en las clases, y también queremos que puedan ayudar a nosotros en casa, que ellos prepara, que enfoca cuando tiene el examen. Ok, entonces cuando estamos más cerca de febrero, que pueden animarse a sus hijos, que trata, que usa sus mentes en maneras para enfocar y de hacer muy bien. Porque vamos a tener celebraciones. Si gana un año de progreso, vamos a celebrar, y también si alcanza el nivel 4, vamos a celebrar porque están elegibles para tener reclasificación. También tenemos budget. No traduce. Budget, las finanzas de esta escuela. Voy a hacer una prueba, o voy a mandar una prueba, un cuestionario a ustedes para recibir sus opiniones. Y COVID protocols también están cambiando. Okay, a couple more announcements is that our Monday morning meeting themes. I just wanted to share this with you. This is a little something new we're trying, just to give the kids some inspiration every week. And so our Monday morning themes are: the first week of the month is to be curious. The second week of the month is to share a joke or riddle, and I encourage students to submit those. And week 3 of the month is the leader in me habit. And then week 4 is going to be just some vocabulary of the week. We're going to challenge students to learn a new big word and then try to use it as many times as they can in the day, the week, at home, at school. Okay. And we have, and your students, some of your students probably went home and have told you that we had a guinea pig here before, Sven, and Sven was adopted. So we have 2 new guinea pigs. They just arrived yesterday, and we have Porco and Cochon, our 2 little guinea pigs. Ok, anuncios, tema de lunes cada semana del mes. La primera semana cada mes queremos hacer algo para inspirar a los niños para que pueda tratar muy bien y le gusta la escuela y eso. Entonces, la primera semana es sea curioso. So voy a tener un tema de sea curioso. En la segunda semana es un chiste. Se anima que los estudiantes pueden entregar uno a mí para que pueda compartir con la escuela. Y la semana 3 voy a compartir un hábito de líder en mí. Y la cuarta semana voy a tener una palabra de vocabulario para compartir con los niños que quiero que ellos usan en la escuela y también en casa. En cuántas veces pueden usar en un día o en la semana. ¿Ok? Y también el otro anuncio es que tenemos nuevos animales para águilas de Edison. En el pasado teníamos un conejijo de Indias que se llama Sven y él fue adoptado. Y entonces ahorita tenemos Porco y Cochón. All right, here are our new COVID decision trees. And if you're watching this and you're looking at this thinking, oh my word, how do we make decisions on when a student needs to go home into quarantine or when they need to go into isolation? What does this all mean? So these are the trees that we get from the county health department, and then they have been changed several times already. And that's because things might change, medical recommendations change, or new questions come up, new cases, new issues, and they needed to change. So you can see on the left side, it says symptom and isolation tree for students and K-12 workers. So we use that tree if a student has symptoms or if they need to be isolated because they're COVID positive. And so we follow you see the arrows there and you see the boxes. We pretty much just go through it as a yes or no. And then we try to get to the decision on where do they need to be? Can they come back to school? Do they need to stay home? For how many days do they need to stay home? And you can see at the bottom there, and this is why they've changed it a few times, but you can see how now it says that they could return as early as day 6 with evidence of a negative test on day 5. So that you've probably heard the nurses tell you that if you've had a symptom or if your child has had a symptom. And then otherwise, if they still get a positive after or on day 5, then they would return on day 11. Or if you just got another negative, let's say on day 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, then you would be able to return. So it's basically after the 6th or on the 5th day or thereafter, you can return with a negative, but the latest would be day 11. Okay, so it wouldn't go past day 11. You wouldn't be on quarantine or isolation for symptom or COVID positive for 12 days or 14 days. Okay, but there will be situations where that could happen, and I'll explain that a little bit. Okay, voy a tratar de traducir. Entonces, este árbol o gráfico para explicar las decisiones que hacemos cuando alguien tiene síntomas en la escuela, niños y también trabajadores o maestros o nuestro equipo aquí en Edison. Entonces, seguimos las cajas y las flechas para ver cuál es la respuesta que es la verdad y podemos hacer nuestra decisión. Entonces, ¿cuándo puede regresar esta persona o tiene que quedar en casa por cuánto tiempo? Y eso. Entonces, puede ver en la caja abajo cuando por la mayoría de los niños están en este caso, cuando los niños tienen síntomas o están positivos con COVID, por la mayoría puede regresar el día 6 después de su primer síntoma. Y 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 puede regresar si tiene negativo en el día 5. ¿Ok? Si todavía está positivo debe que quedar en casa por más días. Hasta, ok, el día 11. Entonces, si está todavía positivo después de 5 días, queda en casa día 6, 7. Pero si toma otra prueba, por ejemplo, en día 8 y es negativo, puede regresar a la escuela. Ok, so después de día 5, tiene la oportunidad de regresar, pero necesita negativo prueba. Pero el último día que puede regresar es día 11 después de su primer síntoma. Ok, so día 11. No va a quedar en casa por más días de 11 si fue positivo y tenía síntomas. Si sabemos cuál día empezó sus síntomas. Ok, so es poquito, obviamente tiene que hablar con el enfermero o la enfermera o enfermero para ver exactamente cuándo puede regresar o cuando tenía su primer síntoma. Y tenemos una carta para explicar, o la lista de niños es confidencial. So we have, what I didn't mention in English, we have a confidential list of students. So the nurses are keeping track so that we can keep track of when was the first day of symptom and when are they allowed to return, the earliest date, and then the latest date. And so we're trying to track that. It's a lot of different cases, and we've seen an explosion of cases now. That's why the communication is a little, it's taking time to get to families. I think we try to make sure it's the same day, obviously, especially with symptoms and COVID positives. We usually that is almost immediately, but then like close contacts and things like that. All right, and then the other tree to the right, I know this is a lot of information, but the tree to the right is just close contact and quarantine. And what I will share about this, and I'll share this on Class Dojo again, because this is the most updated one. It's the same idea. So we follow the tree and we try to make a decision. And so can they remain in school? So that first box on the right picture in the right corner, lower right corner where it says remain in school group tracing, that's new. And that was what we used to call modified quarantine. But before, we would identify students like almost immediately. These were the students that were close contacts, and they go into modified quarantine, which meant that they would test 2 times per week. But now, because of, again, the cases have just gone so much, so quickly, we can't make the calls fast enough. And to like trace it down, there might be, 3 cases in a day, there might be 10 cases in a day. And I try to share that with you as soon as I can when we have the data and it's all been kind of tabulated. But anyway, so the district has this new letter, which I shared in Class Dojo, that says basically everyone kind of treats themselves as modified quarantine and can request an additional test. I'm working with our nurse's office to see if we can set that up. So that way you don't have to do anything. You don't have to run around and do anything. But they would just test in school an additional day. We still have some people that are not opting into tests. So then that would be on to the family to decide how they want to handle that. But that's the change there. Otherwise, you can see it potentially for a close contact could return on day 11. It could return on day 6. And then there is, again, they got to the point of a modified quarantine again. Which again, if we can drill it down, we make those calls and we tell you are specifically on modified quarantine. And then the rest of the campus is on the remain in school group tracing. Okay. And there is one caveat here. And then you'll see an arrow down from the 3 boxes that says additional requirements are included on page 3. What that is, and I didn't want to load more onto the slide. That's already a lot of information. But it's if you're household close contact. So it's not like a school-based close contact. It's you have a parent or a sibling who is positive, you're a close contact. So those students, unfortunately, spend the most time out of school because what they tell them is that if you're a close contact, there's a chance that that person's positive, but they haven't passed it on to the sibling yet. Then if they do catch it, they're going to need to stay home an additional number of days. So let's say the person that's positive is positive for 10 days. And then the close contact is at home with them for that 10 days. They're living in the house and then they still haven't caught it in those 10 days, but they catch it on the 10th day. Then that's another 5 days they would need to stay out. So that's the case where you might see students stay out longer. But again, the nurses will tell you that. Hopefully they'll be able to get that clarity. Okay, voy a tratar de traducir. Entonces, la gráfica a la derecha explica si estás contacto cercana a alguien quien fue positivo con COVID. Y entonces también hacemos la decisión depende cuál es su caso, pero la cosa que es nuevo en esta gráfica es que pueden regresar, disculpa, que puede quedar en la escuela y se llama group tracing, como decidimos con un grupo que toda la escuela posiblemente tenía contacto con alguien con COVID. Entonces es diferente. Entonces ahorita por eso, porque los casos son más grandes, más mayor como en el pasado, el distrito tiene una carta que ya compartí en Dojo que explica que si hay 5 casos en una semana o más, vamos a mandar esta carta. Entonces probablemente ahorita, porque en las 1, 2, 3, en las 3 semanas que teníamos este año, después de regresando de la vacación, teníamos más de 5 cada semana. ¿Ok? Entonces, y todas las escuelas, no sé una escuela que no tiene casos como así. Entonces, todas las escuelas estamos en el mismo lugar. El distrito dijo que si podemos mandar una carta que explica que si hay más de 5 casos, y todos pueden tratar que por la mayoría o por ejemplo, está en modificado cuarentena, porque es posible que tenía contacto con alguien con COVID. Entonces, también el otro cambio en este gráfico puede ver que después, debajo de las cajas rojas, abajo, el día 11 posiblemente que puede regresar si está contacto cercano. Día 6, pero depende de su caso. O puede quedar en casa como cuarentena modificada. Y en este caso es exactamente lo mismo como group tracing, como el grupo, pero si tenemos menos de 5 casos, sí podemos llamar cada una para decir que está modificado, pero si no recibe una llamada y estamos de más de 5, van a recibir una carta. ¿Ok? Es mucha información y la mejor cosa que tenemos es nuestro grupo de enfermeros y enfermeras quienes están llamando a las familias y tratan de llamar tan rápido como posible para comunicarse con ustedes porque ellos son profesionales en el área de salud. Entonces tenemos un gran equipo aquí en el distrito para ayudar a ustedes. Ok. Oh, y la otra cosa que dije en inglés que quiero decir en español también, un cambio debajo de las cajas rojas que puede ver ahí en azul, abajo de las flechas, dice adicional o requisitos. La caja explica que es diferente, pues no puede ver aquí, pero hay mucha información en esta página, pero quería compartir que explica en la otra página es que tiene alguien en la casa, okay, quien vive con usted, que está en un contacto cercano. Sí, entonces, en vez de en la escuela como su vecino en la clase, es diferente como alguien quien vive en la casa con usted por muchas horas, todos los días que comen juntos y cualquier. Entonces, en este caso, dijo que la persona quien está en contacto cercano sus días en casa posiblemente pueden estar más largo como la persona quien es positivo. Porque, por ejemplo, si la persona positiva como su mamá, papá, hermano, hermana, tiene COVID por 10 días, por ejemplo, y la última día, la persona, la hermana, la niña, quien no tiene COVID, pero está cercana, a contacto cercana. Si ella está viviendo en la casa, pero la persona positiva tiene COVID, pero ella no está agarrando o no está contratando COVID, pero en la última día de los síntomas de la hermana, o su hermano o su mamá, Entonces, después de 10 días, posiblemente ella contrata COVID y ella tiene que quedar en casa por 5 días más. Entonces, en total es 15 días en vez de solo 5 días porque estaba cercana. Entonces, es poquito hay confusión conmigo, pero las enfermeras pueden explicar todo porque las horas o días que toma para el virus para estar en su cuerpo, tiene que esperar un ratito para ver si va a pasar a la otra persona en la casa. ¿Ok? Pero también las enfermeras pueden explicar. Okay, I hope I explained that pretty well, but it's been even for our staff, it's been looking at these charts, it's been a little bit confusing when they've changed them a few times, but this is what we follow and we do the best. And again, the nurses, we rely on those teams because they're really the health experts. We are the educators, they are the health experts. All right. We're going to move on to things that are school related now, or I should say learning related now. Understanding reading levels. I'm sharing this because I'm not sure. I know the teachers use this, but I'm not sure if parents have seen this. And I want to make sure parents understand when we mention reading levels, what does that, mean? And again, when you have conferences, for example, with teachers, what does that mean if we say they're reading at a level A, or if they're reading at a level M, or they're reading at level 28? What does that mean? So here is a chart, and I know it's kind of small, and I hope you can see it, but what you'll see, okay, there's just a lot of information, so I'm going to try to break it down. So what you'll see on the top toolbar, where it says grade level by trimester, so it says reading measures and then grade level by trimester across the very top. And then right below the grade level, it has UTK, K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, those are obviously the grade levels we have here at the elementary, and these are the critical reading years when they're learning how to read for the first time. Okay, so that's that part. It just tells you where they should be. And then you'll see colors down below. So you'll see the pink, the green, and then the purple. So the pink is above, I'm sorry, let me start with the green. The green is the dividing line. The green is where they should be. And actually you can see that at the top. There's a little key for that. It says at grade level expectations. And that's really where, and that's why I should have said that first. That's where we should be focused. We want all of the students at each of those respective grade levels to be in the green at minimum when they are learning how to read. So sometimes, especially with the last year of COVID, they're behind. We have a lot of students that are not reading at grade level, and we need to get them to read at grade level. And our teachers work hard at trying to personalize things and do small group lessons and do guided reading and all the kinds of different strategies. But it's hard to make up a lot of time. So we've added tutoring, and we have added some additional supports, and we have 2 additional aides coming that we're hiring. So we're trying to get all of that taken care of. We have Ms. Laskowski doing small groups, and we have our education specialists doing small groups. So we try lots of different things and supports to make sure that we're helping kids get to read at grade level. But we also need students to do the reading on their own. The more exposure they have to vocabulary and just practicing reading, seeing letters, understanding the letter sounds, whether it's in English or their native language, at least they're reading and they're seeing words and text, and it's making meaning, and they're getting familiar with the sight words and things like that. Okay. So again, we're shooting for everybody to be in the green. If they're in the pink, they are not quite there yet. They're not at their grade level. And you can see, obviously, the older they get and the more likely or the less that they grow, the further the gap is, the bigger the gap is. So obviously we want to see them at least progressing along. So even if they're behind, we want to know that they're making progress towards the grade level. And then the ones in purple, or the area in purple, would be just demonstrating that they're above their grade level. So they're performing higher than where their grade level average would be, which is great. We would love to see everybody in the purple. I mean, how fantastic would that be? But at least getting to the green. All right. Okay, so that's that part of the chart. And then if you look over at the columns that are to the left of that, and it has at the top, it tells you like different reading things. So you've got Okapi, you have FA, or I'm sorry, FAST, fast, and then the DRA2, and then the FNP. That's a lot of different stuff. So what that is, those are different tools that we use as a district. So if you haven't heard of those, teachers are very familiar with those, but those are just different tools that we use, and they have an assessment component. They help us understand where the students are at and what books. So like, for example, the Okapi, we actually just got a set, and we got a set that includes all the levels, and I believe all the way down to, I think, V. And we have lots of books in our book room that teachers can check out, and they have lots of books in their classrooms that are already leveled. So the Okapi books, the way that they categorize it, just as a company, they categorize it like that with those levels: early emergent, emergent, early, transitional, early fluent, fluent. That's just how they categorize it. But to match it up with the FAST, which is an assessment we use for the older kids, and the FNP, which we've been using, and some of the teachers still use the DRA, but the FNP is the one we're using this year. It shows you where it matches up. Okay, so these are different companies, different assessments for different grade levels, but this is how they all match up. So if your child brings home an Okapi book, for example, most of the time we do those in class, but let's say they bring home a book and it says early emergent. Well, now you'll know early emergent is either going to be a 0 on the FNP, an A, or a B. Okay, so you'll see that hopefully, again, you don't have to be an expert at this, but just so you know, you won't be like completely out of, in the dark about what's going on with these levels. If your, child goes, oh, I'm in early fluent, or if a teacher says your child's at early fluent, what does that mean? Oh, they're reading at level 16 to 18. Okay, if we're going to look at it in DRA levels, or they're at level I or J book. And teachers have, a lot of teachers have labeled those. So when students are going to pick independent reading books, for example, they're going to go for something that maybe is at their, that they have an easy time reading. We would call that like their instructional level, or their independent reading level. So something that so the instructional is going to be a little bit of a challenge. The independent is going to be what they can read comfortably. So they're going to pick books. Hopefully they're going to pick them more at their instructional level rather than their independent. But then again, independent, they can feel confident with that. And again, practice and practice and practice. Okay. Okay. So that explains the chart. And so again, if you are working with a student and you see that they brought home a book that's like level B, we want to get them moving along. Hopefully they'll be making growth. And you can see too, when you look at the green, you probably wonder, well, how much growth should I expect to see from my kindergartner? Can I expect them to go from A to D? Well, you can see again, that green kind of gives you the idea. They make a lot more growth up until about second grade. And then it kind of levels out, right? You see that. So you'll see those bigger jumps, how much they should jump down levels. K, 1, 2, you see those bigger jumps. And then at 3, 4, 5, by then, hopefully they're reading for information, for enjoyment, and then they're not making as much of that growth. It's just a steady growth. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. That early literacy time is so critical. They would be making bigger leaps. But again, they're not making huge leaps. They're not going from A to J in 1 year typically. Okay, voy a tratar de traducir un poquito de qué dije para explicar esta gráfica. So, esta gráfica explica los niveles de lectura de los niños que están leyendo y están aprendiendo, y las metas que pueden tener para crecer cada año en su lectura. Okay, entonces la parte que está en colores rosa, verde y morada o morado tiene o explica visualmente en cómo pueden crecer, cuál es normal y a cuál nivel debe que estar, en qué grado de su edad. Ok, so por ejemplo puede ver UTK, K, primero, segundo, tercero, cuarto, quinto. Puede ver. Entonces, si está en rosa, está debajo de su nivel, de su grado. Si está en morada, está arriba de su nivel. Y en verde, está en su nivel, está creciendo normalmente en su nivel de su grado, porque de COVID el año pasado tenía dificultad de todos los niños. No todos estaban en su nivel, pero ese normalmente está por la mayoría en su nivel o está cerca de su nivel, un montón de los niños. Y hay tenemos apoyo aquí en la escuela, tenemos asistentes, tenemos clases más chiquitas este año, porque de COVID tenemos una maestra de recursos que se llama Ms. Laskowski para enseñar a los niños en grupos pequeños, quienes han o tienen dificultad de leer. También tenemos tutoría por algunos niños después de la escuela y hay varios apoyos que tenemos aquí para que nuestras metas es que ellos todos están alcanzando a su nivel de su grado, de su edad cada año, que están creciendo exactamente en su nivel. Entonces, algunos más rápido, algunos más lento, pero eventualmente queremos que todos puedan leer con fluidez. Ok, en el otro lado, a la izquierda, arriba puede ver Okapi, donde dice Reading Measures, Okapi, FAST, FAST, DRA, FNP. Ok, estos son productos para evaluación y libros que usamos. Entonces, los libros para que los maestros saben en cuáles libros deben que leer los niños, tiene sus niveles. Entonces tiene su evaluación que dice que si está a nivel A, ellos saben, tenemos que encontrar o usar libros que están early emergent o número 1. Ok, so pueden ver en cuál nivel está y cuál libros necesitan para crecer. Pero para ustedes, que ustedes saben cuando la maestra dice, su hijo está leyendo en el nivel C, usted sabe, C es por la mayoría grado kinder y significa que está emergent, está solo empezando a leer. ¿Ok? Entonces puede ver este gráfico para saber un poquito más de qué significa cuando la maestra dice eso o cómo puedo preguntarle, puedo preguntarle a mi hija o hijo, ¿en cuál nivel está leyendo? Ellos deben que saber. Estoy en E. Ok, entonces tenemos que hacer mejor. Si está en grado 3 y todavía está, por ejemplo, leyendo en F, ok, está atrás, tiene que tratar más o practicar más o tiene que crecer más porque tiene dificultad. Es posible que tiene que leer cosas que le gusta o que lee todos los días o en la noche o cualquier, pero para mejorar, para que pueda alcanzar a su nivel de su grado. Ok, so tenemos un montón de libros también en la escuela aquí. Tenemos libros libros nuevos que Ms. Laskowski tiene en su salón de Okapi. Son muy bien bonitas y pueden usar en las clases. Y también tenemos libros en la biblioteca y también tenemos libros en nuestro salón de libros que los maestros pueden usar. Y también maestros tienen libros en sus salones. Entonces hay un montón de libros aquí en la escuela y queremos que ellos estén tomando ventaja de su oportunidad de leer, leer, leer. Y en casa también pueden leer, practicar con sus hijos. Ok, muy bien. All right. The next one I'm going to be sharing is understanding Iready Levels. So I just shared with you this. Iready is another tool we use, and I've shared about Iready before. But the other tool that I just talked about was the reading levels and then some of those assessments and reading programs. And now I'm going to talk about Iready Levels just so you can see some of the growth we've already had this year. So it's January and we started using Iready assessments back in August and September, and then kids have been doing their independent Iready lessons. So today I only pulled up the reading, but they also have the math. So you might be looking over the shoulder of your child and you saw, they do the math or they do the reading, and you can see the minutes that they do and you can see the activities that they do. But I just wanted to pull this up because I finally have a comparison, although all classes have not finished assessing yet. So to be fair, this is not a full and accurate picture because of, again, classes are still finishing the middle of the year assessment for Iready. But the good news is, and I'll just share just briefly, you could see green is good on these charts. So in this case, green is good. Red, not so good, means we have a lot of work to do. And the yellow means we're close. So everything in green. So you can see from the beginning of the year where it says, and let's look at the top chart. There's two boxes. The top box says diagnostic MOY, middle of year, diagnostic BOY, beginning of year. So what you can see just at a glance is I see more green in the middle of the year, which is exactly what we should see. The kids are making growth. The more they're in school, the more that they're getting their instruction. And then the red is getting smaller. We have less and less kids in the red, which means less and less that are really struggling below grade level. And you can see it actually tells you if it's 3 grade levels below, 2 grade levels below, 1 grade level below, again, close, early on grade level, or mid or above grade level. So look at that. We've had a growth from 6% up to 15% that are above grade level. Woohoo. We have a growth from 24% to 37% who are early on grade level. And then we did go down in the yellow, but that's okay because we can say those kids in yellow, that was 27%, are moving up to the green, right? And then the red has gone down in total 29, I'm sorry, from 37 plus 5 would be 42%, down to 29% that are still struggling. So we need, again, we know attendance has been really, really rough this year, not much lower than our usual at Edison. And we can't help that. It's COVID. It is what it is. We got symptoms, you got to go home. That's it. So given those circumstances, this is already very promising information. Our goal would be, and I think I shared this at earlier meetings, to get all green. We want all kids at or above grade level. That is the goal. Is that realistic? Maybe not, just because everybody's circumstances are different and their path to learning might take longer. So is that realistic? Maybe not, but that is certainly our goal. We want every kid to be able to read at grade level so they are equipped for any opportunity that they want to go for. Okay. And then down below is just the second graphic down below is just an explanation of the areas of reading. So again, you don't have to know all these terms. These are more, what teachers use and understand where they're struggling the most. But if you ever have a meeting and you're like, oh, what does that mean? So the phonological awareness is their understanding of the sounds in a letter association. Like why does C have 2 different sounds? Like really understanding that the vowels in Spanish and English, right? Sometimes can be challenging. If you're, it's like, oh yeah, in Spanish, it sounds like this, but in English, it sounds like this, or other languages too, Vietnamese or Haitian Creole, again, vowels are always a little more tricky. Phonics is understanding things like how the letters go together. So like C-A-T, cat, k-at, right? Phonics is putting those sounds together. High frequency words are your words like is, that, the, jump, words that you would see frequently, and that don't necessarily always follow a pattern. So again, like I said, the, them, these, those, the. So, and then vocabulary is just growing vocabulary, learning bigger words. And that is what that you can see right there is one of our greatest areas to grow in, vocabulary. So many rich ways to describe things. Like I think about my Spanish vocabulary and I go, wow, my vocabulary needs to grow so much because I can maybe work around explaining something. But man, if my vocabulary was bigger, I would be much more effective, much more efficient with my language. And that's the same for the students. So whether they're learning English as a second language, or whether they're learning English as a third language, or whether they're studying both Spanish and English at the same time, just growing vocabulary, learning what things mean, being curious about that, reading more and more books because there's just so many things to learn about. I want to learn about rhinoceroses. How do I say that? How do I say that in Spanish? I want to learn about, hot air balloons and all the different mechanisms in a machine. Like there's just so many words, right? So we really want to grow the vocabulary, but that requires exposure. It requires reading and opening up conversations so that we can use words that we learn. That's why we're doing one vocabulary a month that we're going to just call out and just get kids to be intentional about practicing. And then the comprehension of, it says literature or informational, that's basically fiction or nonfiction. And again, the comprehension comes when you have the vocabulary and you can decode or read the phonics of what you're reading, and you have a good bank of high frequency words. So you can see phonological awareness and high frequency are fantastic, but there's still some kids who struggle with that. But vocabulary and then comprehension of what we're reading, that is something that we really need to grow in. And if we really make growth in that, I think it's going to make a huge difference in our overall performance. Ok, voy a traducir. Entonces, voy a tratar, disculpa que no tengo traductora hoy. Voy a traducir. Entonces, la gráfica arriba explica completamente de la escuela la evaluación en agosto, septiembre, el primero del año, en el principio del año escolar. Y la segunda arriba, que dice MOY, es middle of the year, es la segunda evaluación del año en lectura. Pero ahorita no completaron todos los niños, todos los estudiantes ya completaron su Iready. Entonces, no es completamente todos, pero está un ejemplo de cómo estamos progresando y en lectura, los niños. Entonces, puede ver donde dice Diagnostic BOY en el principio del año escolar. Ya teníamos solo los 30% quienes estaban en su nivel o cerca de su nivel. Y ahorita tenemos 15 más 36, 37, que es 52%. Entonces es mejor, están creciendo, están mejorando, progresando. Y el lugar donde está rojo, en el principio del año, en lectura, estaba 37 más 5, entonces 42. Y ahorita en rojo, que está debajo de su nivel, solo tenemos 29. Entonces es menos. Entonces es bueno porque queremos que todos están creciendo al nivel de verde. Verde o amarillo, pero no van a quedar en rojo. ¿Ok? Porque nuestra meta para la escuela es que todos, 100%, están en color verde, que están alcanzando a su nivel de lectura o más arriba. ¿Ok? Y abajo hay una caja que explica las áreas de lectura. Los maestros entienden todo de eso porque usan estrategias y todo que necesita y planes para su instrucción para mejorar en las áreas, pero hay esas áreas es que necesita para ser una buena persona quien lee, que lee muy bien. Phonological awareness, que significa que entiende sonidos y las letras. ¿Cuál es la relación entre los sonidos que hacen las letras y letras? ¿Cuáles son los sonidos cuando están leyendo? Por ejemplo, vocales son más difíciles para niños porque hacen varios sonidos. Por ejemplo, A tiene A, E, combinación con otras vocales que es AO o algo así. Entonces, pero por la mayoría puede ver que casi todo está verde, pero un poquito todavía tiene dificultad con los vocales, sonidos que hacen. Phonics es cuando pone las letras juntos, entonces K, A, T, cat. Es phonics cuando tiene las letras para poner juntos, que entiende las letras combinaciones y que forman una palabra. High frequency words, palabras que pueden ver cuando lee con frecuencia. Por ejemplo, the o la, el, son, somos, son palabras frecuentes. En inglés son otras palabras, pero y vocabulario son palabras que aprenden en un montón de vocabulario. Y yo dije que en español, sí, mi vocabulario fue mucho mejor o más grande, podía comunicarse en una manera más fluidez. Pero obviamente siempre están agarrando, aprendiendo nuevas palabras. Es un proceso de la vida. Y queremos que los niños también, obviamente en esta gráfica puede ver que es la área que tenemos que crecer lo más. Es porque los niños tienen que saber cuál es esto, cuál es esto, cuál es esto. Y hay un montón de palabras. Por ejemplo, puede hablar de una máquina y partes de la máquina. Hay varios vocabularios que posiblemente los niños no saben. Cosas de un lugar, por ejemplo, una ciudad, una comunidad, una club y todo. Hay un montón de cosas que puede hablar de o aprender de una ciudad. Entonces hay un montón de vocabulario para aprender. Entonces puede ayudar en esta área para leer más, leer, porque cuando lee tiene, está cerca a palabras nuevas y pueden aprender, oh, ¿qué es esto? ¿Qué es esto? Oh, pero si ve la palabra 3 veces, 5 veces, oh, ya recuerdo qué significa esta palabra. Ok, y comprensión, literatura y información, pero más o menos qué significa fiction, non-fiction, ficción, non-ficción. Y también, si tiene más vocabulario, si sus phonics son muy bien, puede leer para comprender, que entiende, que hace censo con las cosas que están leyendo, que aprende, que entiende, solo no está leyendo las palabras, pero entiende las palabras que significa algo a la persona leyendo. Okay, muy bien. So it's Iready. This is where our benchmark, middle of the year. All right. And then our last bit here is just some ideas and activities to do at home. And I know I'm going a little bit long today, but that's okay. To make a family bucket list. So make a list together. Maybe that's the way that you make a goal. So what are all the things we want to accomplish this year in 2022? Number 2, draw a wheel of fortune. So maybe you have specific categories of things that you want to do together or you want to learn together. And maybe you write out a goal for each of those things. Like, what are the things? And then maybe you decide what you're going to do that month. Okay, I'm going to have my different categories and we're going to spin the wheel or whatever we're going to do, pick it. It's someone's turn in the family to pick it. And then you work on that thing for that month. You know, however you might want to do that. The third one, create a vision board. Maybe have the kids, you know, take old magazines. And if you need them, I have loads and loads of them in the office. But, you know, take old magazines or newspaper clippings or find pictures online, do it virtually. You know, they have their Chromebooks, have them take a Google Doc and then add pictures. Actually, that would be even easier. Have them add pictures to the sheet, and then that'll be the things that they want to accomplish or the things they want to learn about or their hopes and dreams. Number 4, play 3 stars and a wish. I don't know this game, but you know, a child could come up with a wish and then maybe they set a goal for something they want to work on. And the 3 stars are the things they do well. So they're like, I know I'm good at this, this, and this, and then here's my wish, something I want to get better at, something like that. Ok, entonces las ideas para la familia, para hacer metas o hacer actividades juntos para sus sueños, hacer una lista de cosas que quiere completar en el año 2022. Puede hacer una rueda de fortuna que tiene ideas en la rueda y, por ejemplo, una persona en la familia puede escoger cada mes qué quiere hacer o en qué quiere enfocar. Número 3, puede hacer una vision board o una, ¿cómo puedo decir? Un documento de visión de sus sueños. Y puede hacer en su Chromebook, puede hacer Google Doc y poner fotos de las cosas que quiere alcanzar o ganar o con que quiere participar o algo diferente, que quiere aprender, que es afuera de la escuela o dónde quiere visitar, cuál vacación quiere tomar. Y puede hacer fotos para tener eso. Y 4, puede jugar 3 stars and a wish, 3 estrellas y no sé cómo se dice wish, pero un sueño y 3 cosas que hacen muy bien. Por ejemplo, el niño puede escribir las 3 cosas que hacen muy bien y una cosa que quiere mejorar o que quiere enforzar en el año o la mes o el día o la semana. Okay, number 5. Number 5, ask fun questions. So this could just be a game, you know, instead of watching TV or a movie together, maybe you just say, okay, we're going to play a game. Like maybe you're playing board games and then you say, okay, we're going to take a break and play. Let's ask some fun questions. And what would you do if you won the lottery? What would you do if you had a superpower? Which superhero would you be? How would you use it? Things like that, you know, just asking fun questions, kind of weird questions, just to get the kids laughing. So puede preguntarle preguntas divertidos para que pueden hablar sus hijos. Por ejemplo, si están jugando en la mesa, en vez de mirando la televisión o un video o una película, están tiene una conversación con la familia y puede preguntarle cosas que hace, como si se hace reírse, to laugh, con su familia. Okay, number 6. Number 6, interest maps. So older kids can learn a lot about themselves by paying attention to their interests. Again, this is kind of, we have actually an app that we started using at the school called Zello. And that would be a great opportunity to maybe talk to them about Zello, because the kids are actually filling out their interests and they're kind of, it's like a younger version of college and career prep. So it's just getting them started on thinking about all that from a younger age. And then as they start to get older and they get more experiences and they get more life experience, they can figure out what they're good at and what they want to do for a living. So it's just something that they can do, but you could take advantage of the app Zello on their Clever account for that. Okay, puede hacer interest maps o mapas de interés, pero dije que hay un programa que tenemos en el distrito que se llama Zello en su Clever, en su cuenta de Clever, que puede usar para que los niños puedan identificar sus intereses y sus fuerzas, destrezas, para que puede planificar para su futuro. Entonces, si saben cuáles áreas tiene interés o fuerza, puede planear para tener actividades cuando crece, cosas que le gusta hacer para tener más experiencia y todo crece, crece, crece. And then number 7, goal ladders. You could just make like a stair stepper. This is just something, maybe it could be visual. Maybe you have like a ladder and you think about like when we had our turkey trot, we're trying to set a goal. We had a thermometer that said, okay, we're going to start here. We have nothing, but we're going to keep growing up to our goal. Maybe you have something like that where you have some sort of ladder where you're like, I want to get all the way to here. My goal is all the way up at the top, which is to, I don't know, let's say take a family vacation to Disneyland. Okay, what do we need to do? We need to save some money. We need to plan the trip. We need to look at the website. We need to do whatever it is. And then you guys just, as a family, work on that together. Okay, so these were just a lot of different ideas. Entonces, la última 7 es goal ladder o escaleras que puede hacer para su meta en el futuro eventual y las chiquitas cosas que tiene que hacer para alcanzar a esta meta. Por ejemplo, puede visitar o puede tener el sueño o la meta para visitar Disney junto con la familia, pero tiene que guardar dinero, tiene que planear el día, visitar el sitio del web y cualquier cosa que necesita hacer. So es un ejemplo. Okay, so those are the ideas. And with that, I'm just going to say congratulations to our shining stars, and I will have a video for them. Felicitaciones a nuestras estrellas brillantes y por hacer un video después de tomando las fotos en las clases. And don't forget to check Class Dojo. All right. Thank you for coming, everybody. Have a wonderful day. Gracias por venir. Que tenga un buen día. Excelente día.